Hey guys, today I want to talk to you about yoga props. So, a lot of people have misconceptions about yoga props, and they think that whenever teachers are suggesting that they use props, they're saying that they're not capable of doing the yoga postures. And to some extent, that's true, but hear me out. So, I cannot do all of the yoga postures. Anatomically, it's not possible for me to do some of the things. So, I have fairly short arms and I have a long torso. So, when it comes to doing binds and things like that, it's very hard for me to be able to do those, if not impossible for me to be able to do those. So there's certain props that are going to make those things easier, make it so that you can hold on to places you wouldn't normally be able to. And actually, yoga props are a way that you can tell that a yoga student is more advanced because they're using those props to support them and to help them to get to a place they could never achieve without yoga props. So I'm going to go through some of my suggestions for props that you should have. Obviously, there's all sorts of yoga props out there, and some of them are very one-use props, and so you could have a lot of different things that you wanted, but these are just things that I think are beneficial for all yoga students to have. So the first thing would be a yoga mat, and I have my yoga mat right here. I have a ton of different yoga mats. I like to buy different ones for the different locations. So I keep one at the school that I teach at, and I have a couple here at the house. I have some that I use when I go outdoors, and I just usually use Gayam yoga mats. I do have and have tried some of the more expensive yoga mats, but honestly, you just need a mat. It doesn't matter starting out. You might get pickier down the line of what type of yoga mat you want to use, but for now, just run to Walmart, TJ Maxx, go on Amazon, and just order a mat. It doesn't really matter as long as you have a mat. It's going to help you from sliding around on the floor. It's going to make it so that you are able to be on your knees for a while without having that pain. And that brings us to the next thing that you should have, a yoga blanket. So yoga blankets are great because you can use them, lay them down on your mat to pad your knees. You can also use them to lay over yourself when you're in Shavasana, or if you're doing yin yoga or restorative postures. They're great for just rolling up and putting under a spot that isn't quite touching the mat. So maybe you need one behind your neck, or maybe you're in pigeon and you want to put it underneath your leg or your tailbone so that you have that support. These are great because you can fold and unfold them and you're able to use as much support as you need. Some of the props are not as easy to modify as blankets are, and so it's a great idea to have a blanket. It does not have to be a yoga blanket, so I got this blanket because it matches my colors and I really like it, but any kind of blanket will do. And when I'm doing restorative and yin practices, lots of times I just take the blankets off my bed and use those too. Another essential prop is a block. Again, you can buy expensive blocks, but they're pretty much all the same. Books work too. Obviously, books, if they open up, or if they're paperback books, or if you don't have a lot of big books around the house, blocks are going to be your go-to option. Blocks are going to help with some of the same things as the blanket. So supporting yourself, you might put it behind your head, or if you're in child's pose, you might lay your head right on it. Oftentimes, pregnant women will use multiple blocks underneath their hands when they do downward dog to lift the mat up to them. I use it all the time in standing postures where I'm going to be trying to revolve or turn. So in pyramid pose, 2 blocks on either side of my front foot, or in triangle pose, having a block out front so I can lift my arm and keep my chest nice and open, because there's no way that my hand is touching the ground in triangle pose. And I think that they're a great addition for even postures where you could touch the ground. So in low lunge, for example, I can put my hands down on either side of my foot, but the block gives me more space to have my chest be more open and my spine be better aligned. So blocks, best prop ever, suggest having at least 2, if not more blocks. And blocks are not that expensive, so you should be able to get one of those, no problem. Sometimes you can buy a kit that will have a yoga mat, 2 blocks, and a strap. And that's a great idea if you're just starting out. So that brings us to the next one, strap. There's lots of different types of straps. You'll see sometimes the infinity straps, which are crossed in the middle, and that makes it so it's a set length, and you can easily just loop it around your foot or your arms behind your back. But straps are very versatile. So again, like I said, short arms. So if I'm going to be doing something like dancer pose and I need to get my leg up near my head, I would never be able to reach my hands back to grab my foot. But because I have the strap, I can work towards that, and maybe one day I will be able to actually grab my foot with my hand. But regardless, this would help bring your leg up near your head. It's also great for this stretch where you try to touch the fingers behind the back. Having a strap, you can walk your fingers closer together until eventually they would be touching. So lots of things you can do with straps. Also in yin and restorative postures, they can hold you to your props. So you might have a bolster that you're lying on, and I'll show you one of those in a minute. But you might have a bolster that you're lying on, and you actually strap yourself to it so you're not going anywhere. Some people are weird about being strapped down, and that's okay. You don't have to do that, but it's great for holding your knees together or just being that extra little bit of support. And you can actually use blocks that way too. So put them like between your knees to hold that alignment as you're doing stuff. Just reminded me of that. I have a lot of people that ask if they can wear socks on their yoga mat in class. And the answer is I wouldn't, because they're slippery and you don't want to fall. But they do have yoga socks where the toes are out, so you can put your toes out through it and still be able to grip with them. And it has the stuff to keep you from slipping. So I don't usually wear them, but if you get cold feet while you're doing yoga and you want something, this is something you could use. Another thing that's really nice to use in Shavasana or any kind of restorative yoga is an eye pillow. So this one's actually lavender scented from Origins, and it's really, really nice. But even just a shirt or another blanket or something can be great to put over your eyes too. But if you have trouble keeping your eyes closed when you're in Shavasana, that's a great option for you. Another thing that I have, and I've just started to use this, is my yoga wheel. So I don't do a lot of the more bendy yoga postures. So this is something that I'm just starting out using now to help a little bit with back bends. But if that's something that you want to explore a lot, these are great for that. People will also turn them and use them as something to stand on or hold. That's something you should look more into before you do it, but that's a possibility too. Towels, they have ones that are full length for the whole yoga mat. If you were doing a Bikram yoga or hot yoga and you needed to have something to dry off your mat so you don't slip, because if you're sweating a lot, that's going to happen. You might have that happen in power yoga vinyasa courses as well. I don't use my towel that much because that's not the type of yoga that I normally do. So I just have this little one, but they do have full length ones for your mat as well. I'm gonna grab my bolster because it's over here. So bolsters come in all different shapes and sizes. This is a very long bolster. I actually made this bolster myself because I wanted to have a bigger bolster. They range in size and price drastically. So if you look at bolsters, you might see them upwards of like $200, $300. They do have ones that are like $40 or $50 too. And if you aren't just doing restorative yoga, if you're thinking you don't really need a bolster right now in what you're doing, couch cushions work. Cushions, or pillows rather, from the bed don't usually work because they're usually too squishy. So you want it to maintain its shape some. But these are great if you're lying back on. You could use your blocks to support you in an upright position. Also, if you were doing some sort of child's pose lying down. I play around a lot with bolsters in my yin and restorative yoga classes. A lot of studios have these props. So if you're going to actual studio, you might not need to have the props, or you might just have to pay a small fee to use the props. But if you're doing a home practice, you're going to want to find things around your house that you can use if you don't have props. The other thing I would suggest having is some sort of inspirational reading. I have trouble meditating if I am just going in with I need to think about nothing, I need to just focus on my breath. I usually will look through this book. This one is Everyday Calm, 365 Ways to a Tranquil Life, but I've had lots of different books over time. But I'll just read one. So this is Freedom from Desire Leads to Inner Peace. And so I would think about that affirmation as I'm meditating to give me something to focus on. So if you have some sort of inspirational reading, or journal is great if you want to write down your experiences with yoga. Those are all going to be things that help you to focus. So there are other props I could go through, and there's other ideas that we could explore, but I just want to give you a brief overview today. I will be going through more in depth about the different props and how you can use them at some point during my vlog, because that's a question I've gotten a lot of you asking me. But I do want to re-emphasize that the use of props shows that you know your limitations, and that you're listening to your body, and that you want to challenge yourself, and that props are not a crutch, and props are not something that non-yogis use. If you're using props, it shows that you are honoring your body, and I want you to remember that. So continue to ground down into your strengths and to grow as an individual. Have a wonderful day. Namaste. If you liked this video, please let me know. Leave a like as well as subscribe. Subscribing allows me to make free content for you. If you have more questions that you would like me to address in my vlog, please leave a comment below with your question. I would be happy to either answer it there or answer it in an upcoming video.